Absolutely. So we are almost at the end of our conversation, and I hate it because the conversation is just amazing. The
Thank
kind
you.
of discussions we are having. The school children are very close to my heart. The school and
Okay.
college students, right? They are the ones who are most confused when things like this happen, which are like drastic changes happening in the fabric outside. There is a discussion around, do the startup, that's the future. Then there are people who are comfortable doing the jobs, and they're like, oh, but and if and all those sort of things that goes in their head, right? With the massive redefinition of everything that we are seeing, and it is not new, it has been happening, right? So what is your perspective on how should these students who are in their 10th, 12th, or in their graduation, how should they keep away from this noise and focus on building a successful life, if we can call it, right? This is like taking you back into your 20-25 years. And
Yeah, that's why for a second I was like, yeah, that's interesting. You see, so there are two ways to, I mean, there's one which is a fact, right? Which is that new careers will keep evolving and emerging, right? As like you said about technology, right? I would say like when we were in school, we got exposed to physics, chem, math, bio, history, geography, languages. So you had, I mean, we did English, Hindi, Marathi, French, right? So you got exposed to all of that. You had art classes, you had moral science, you had physical education, you had all of these things that were kind of, you got exposed to. And then you kind of ran with it to build your career. So, I mean, I went and did my science, then I did my economics, then I went and did MBA, then years later, I did my fellowship to study further in electric vehicles. So it's like you figure out, and at every chunk, you kind of take it. For the last generation, you just did all of this, then you worked, and then you were retired. In my generation, already it happened that, you know what, you just didn't, you have to keep, which is why you said you go back, you study some more, you add to it. So after working X number of years, I go to my fellowship, stop. Now today I'm continuously learning new things. So we have that. Now, unfortunately, for the generation that's following, why I say unfortunate is because if they don't make that mindset shift, it's going to be hard. So it's not about just doing this degree and then that's it for life, right? You don't have that option. Already we don't have that option. So they're never going to have that option. Just accept it. You're going to have to continuously learn, but you've got to learn in chunks, right? And so, for instance, at this stage, if you start getting exposed, like you got exposed to all of these other things like physics, chem, math, and languages, and social sciences, and all of that, you have to start getting exposed to coding, blockchain, get an exposure to what it is from a point of view of data science, data management, what is IoT, all of that, right? You start getting exposed to it. And then you start developing an interest in it, you move in that direction, and you go into application. So you could, I mean, this is very fascinating because you could go into esports, which is now a career option, or you could go become a risk management data scientist, or just become somebody who's in data security, right? As long as you get exposed to things in an early stage, or none of this you do, and you just actually go into a space of application in a different way, so tech enabled. Every other industry is not pure tech play, it's tech enablement, right? So technology is that underlying thing which enables a certain outcome. So for me, young people just keep getting exposed to stuff like that. These are foundational courses, pick them up. But something that I was growing up with, and I remember thinking to myself, my God, why is nobody taught that, was personal finance, right? Literally, you were never taught personal finance in school. And for me, there are certain things that as young people, equip yourself on that. And second, really big one, we get so obsessed with technology, we forget the most basic stuff. Finance, how will you manage your life? To mental health.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So those things, we are becoming a more connected country or world, but you're also becoming a more isolated world. So you are, as much as you're getting more connected, you're also getting more isolated. And if you don't know how to manage your emotions, don't know how to manage all of that, that's when a lot of these problems start happening. So that brings me again to that same thing that I told you about my own, this thing is kill the noise.
Yeah.
And understand that there are there are certain people you should take advice from, and everyone else is noise, even if they are closest to you. Right? Yeah, please ask the question.
So my daughter is 12 years, she's preteen, right? And I know that this is the right way, that you need to remove the noise and focus on the right set of people, hear from the right set of people. Still, I find it very hard to convince her that this is how it should be.
You're the wrong person. So, that once you hit those teen years, the parent is that one person who you don't listen. So it's a very and it happened with you as well, right? Because the evolution of human society is that every generation improves on what the previous generation has done, which means you will take stuff from the previous generation, but you will think for yourself.
Yeah.
Now, in the formative years, all the input that you have given, and that's really where I say bless my parents, because they put in a lot of the value system, good behavior, gave the basic education, and stretched themselves to give me whatever, and then make fun of my silly notions. That's what their role was, right? But as you move into the teen years, you have to facilitate them being able to pick up those good voices. Right. And you've got to understand that your role after that point is a facilitator role to ensure that you're one watching that they are in the right company, because that job is your job as a parent. But at the same time, you're making it possible for them to have access to that knowledge. Right. So in my time, when there was no internet, when we were growing up, and because I always loved business, my parents facilitated it that I could attend an AGM. They facilitated it that I could I went and I met all the credit rating agencies at that time and asked them to give me all their reports free. So I actually went and knocked the door of 4 of the credit rating agencies and collected company reports from them and studied it. Right? But even the idea of which credit rating agencies, they said, you can go. This is an idea. Why don't you go there? Or then British Council Library, which was in Nariman Point at the time, they got me the membership of that. So after college, I'd go and spend out there and read it. So those inputs are important from a parent's perspective. Today, it's so much easier because you've got access to information, but it's also harder because there's too much information.
Yes.
Right. So how do you kind of give them guidance? I'd gone and met some really strong people at that time in business, because my uncle had connected me or my aunt had connected me. My parents were connecting me. I would go and talk to those people. So they were connecting and stepping back. Then they'd come back and say, how was it? Some of it I'd share, some of it I'd not share. If I didn't like the experience, I'd just say, oh, it was okay. Or you won't understand, because that's just
that's
who you are as a child, right? But those things form. So you've got to, as a parent, ensure that they have those. As you're older, I actually train people to do this when I do my self-leadership course, which over now 800 people have gone through. Wow. So self-leadership is at that senior, slightly mid to senior, because it's a lot more complex as your life, right? At that stage, I actually remind people to do this growth, maintain and eliminate, which is not my concept. I've read it. Where you actually look at people around you and you think, which are these voices that I need to eliminate? If I can't eliminate them because it's a family member who's constantly dragging me down, how do I create a maintained schedule with them? Which is that and I know in my back of my mind that now I'm going to meet this person, or I'm going to speak to this person. This person is generally a drag on my energy. How do I protect my energy and say, look, I'm just going to be maintaining the relationship here. I'm not going to be affected by this relationship. Yes. So eliminate and maintain. And then the biggest group is growth. Who do you think are the people who are going to help you grow? And I often see that, look, when you become a mentor to people or you become a coach to people, they will ask you first about your expertise. Before you know it, they're asking you about everything. And as a joke, right? So sometimes I've had people come and say, okay, what do you think is the best school for my child? And I'm like, how am I the authority on that? Right? Now, believe you me, if I didn't have this behavior, a normal person will immediately start giving feedback.
Yeah.
This school is good, that school is a blah, blah, blah. But I've had no children go into any school. So how am I the authority? I can give you a conceptual framework to evaluate your schools. And that's where I'll stop. Right? But normal people do what? Give gyan on topics that they are not experts on. So your ability to know, is this the person who's an expert on this topic, and do I need to give credence to their views? Or is it just an opinion that is not based on expertise? And if it's an opinion not based on expertise, ignore. As a matter
Absolutely,
of fact,
that
don't
is very
keep them
important.
around you, actually. Don't even keep them around you.
Yeah, you should know the right doors to knock, and you should know how to what is right, right? That comes from the formative year value system, right?
I would also urge you to understand that sometimes you might find it difficult to get those growth mindset friends. It's not
Hmm.
easy.
Hmm.
It's okay to be alone rather than surround yourself with voices that bring you back down. So today you have access to books, you have podcasts, you have video, which you are doing, and hopefully people find value and take away something from it. And that's what it is. They might not know you, but they know your podcast, they know
Yeah.
about your video cast, they listen to you, and in a way, you become that expertise voice in their head, right? That expertise voice needn't be somebody I know personally.
Yeah.
Through your own work, you will end up being that growth friend for somebody without being friend in the technical sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely. This conversation has been really lovely, Delna. We talked about life, business, school, students, right? How should you build a life out of this living? That is what is more important. So if people wants to reach out, what are your coordinates?
Honestly, the best way is to drop me an email or to write on LinkedIn, right? Because those are, I am extremely brutal about managing my time and energy. So as a result of that, if people ping me, I respond at the time that I am in the space of responding. And it's always very quick. It's always been like that. That's because I work in chunks and I'm very efficient. So if you drop a note on the website, which is, of course, my name because I'm so full of myself. So it's delnaavari.com, or you can drop a message on LinkedIn. Prasant, I think a lot of people don't even realize we don't know each other, right?
Yeah.
You just dropped me a message and said, I'm going to do this, and would you be open to chatting? And I said, yeah, sure, right? And how long did it take to set it up? So the truth is that if you have a decent idea or you need something, and I'm in a position to actually participate in your journey, I will participate. If I'm not in a position to participate, I'll say, look, I'm not the best person for you. And there's no offense to it. So LinkedIn, website note, or then contact at delnaavari.com, which is the email ID. It's easy. And we will, either my team members or I will immediately respond, within reasonable working hours.
Yeah, and I see you're quite active on LinkedIn, sharing your perspectives in that bite-sized learning, right? How do you grow your business? So 3 pointers to make sure that you're on right track,
That
right?
is the team. They said, oh, you write this long form, but can you do these bite-sized things? And they nudged me. And so I've done it. So the credit goes to the younger generation, the younger millennials and Gen Z, all credit to them. They're the ones who push me to do those.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
tell
my
me
thing
quick.
is, yeah, tell me in 3, tell me 2. But if you
Exactly.
see my answer in that, also very often will say, you're fooling yourself if I can tell you take 3 books. I
Yes,
mean, what?
exactly.
I'll tell
Three
you 3
types of book, then
areas.
you tell them.
Yeah. So
And
yeah.
and if
Yeah,
you look
please.
back, right, about a decade ago, the cash line used to be 10 ways of doing it. Then it
Hmm.
became 7 ways of doing it, then 5, and now we are at 3. So,
Oh God,
so
yes, I know. Yeah, but everyone's looking for a shortcut. There is no shortcut. I keep trying to explain, and there is no best way to do it, and there is nothing perfect. And I mean, a lot of people thought I was an absolute idiot to walk out of such a successful career, and including my entire ecosystem. Nobody in my ecosystem was happy about it. Some of them encouraged me and said, do what makes sense to you because you've always been successful. Many people were worried that I was doing this because something was wrong. And I said, nothing is wrong. They're all my friends. I love them to bits. And they all still support my journey. So it has to make sense to you, right?
yeah.
And that's what I keep saying. It has to make sense to you. Somebody else might think you're making a mistake. Um, as long as you're happy, it's enough.
You have one life, right? You can't have different lives for different things. So
Well, there is a quantum theory, and there are other things that say that we are all living our past, present, and future in parallel lives. But I think that's a different video cast.
that's an interesting one. Yeah, I saw that. But I know only of this life, right? So I
Yeah.
have
So
this
right
life
now
which I
you're
need to
conscious
live.
of this life, so make it something that you enjoy living.
Absolutely, that is very important, and that is one thing I'd normally tell people in my teams and the younger ones. the work, the success, that definition will keep on changing. What doesn't change
Absolutely.
is happiness out of it. Right?
Correct.
So I think I've taken more time of yours, but it was lovely talking to you, Delna. Thank you for
No,
giving
it's
me
been
your
an
time.
absolute pleasure. And thank you for inviting me. And I wish you tremendous success, because what you're trying to do is actually, as I said, be one of those growth friends for people who need that insight, who might not get it in their immediate ecosystem. And I think people like you who are taking that out are actually, filling that gap for people. So I wish you absolute success. Go on, rock.
And I have nice people like you who take out time on a cold request to join and share the life journey. That makes this whole thing doable and
You'll
amazing.
always find that. You'll always find that, because if you put that out, you put a good intention out, your good intention will be answered. So wish you
Absolutely.
absolute success in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Delna. Take care.
Thank you.